If you must think about it, that's also a good sign. It means that you can no longer go back to where you were, and you are still discovering the road ahead. That results in you feeling like the odd one out, and believe me, that will change. If you've already put bias and prejudice aside, but you are still living in a culture where these issues are still prevalent, then you are a trailblazer and a unique person. That is not easy. If it was easy, then the herd would have been walking with you rather than reluctantly following you. As your spiritual awareness changes, your emotional body changes, in the sense that you are much more aware of your emotions. Considering that your emotions are caused by or based on your perceptions, attitudes, and thoughts, it would make sense that your emotions will change as your view changes. Every change in the way you view the world makes your world a bigger and more inclusive place. For example, is it important for you that animals are slaughtered in a halal, Muslim, or kosher, Jewish way? Or does it not matter because you're a Christian? Which approach would you prefer? By the way, here's the difference. Halal law requires a prayer to Allah before the animal is slaughtered. Halal law allows for people to eat a range of meat and seafoods, but prohibits alcohol. Kosher law, on the other hand, doesn't require a prayer before slaughter, but kosher law is stricter in the sense that less variety of meats is allowed, and meat must be kept separate from dairy at all times, and there's no prohibition against alcohol. If you are a Hindu, eating meat is a big deal because cows are regarded as holy and don't get slaughtered at all. Here's a question for you. Do you eat pork like a Christian, or do you find eating pork offensive like a Jew or a Muslim? What's your personal view on these issues? How do you treat the views of other people where they differ from yours? And by quoting these examples, I'm not hinting that you should be vegetarian or vegan if you choose a spiritual path. What I would say is that you should listen to your body and change your eating habits accordingly. You should also respect the choices that other people make in terms of their eating habits. You've probably heard this joke. How do you know that someone is a vegan or an ex-smoker? They tell you, and they tell you again. If you need to tell people you have now become a vegetarian or a vegan, then the chances are that you've made the decision with your head rather than with your heart. My view is that some animals were created by God to be eaten by others. For me, it's wrong to kill an animal for a trophy or purely because you can do so. I don't see anything wrong with killing animals for meat, but everything in moderation. I personally prefer not to eat too much red meat because it makes me feel sluggish. Over the years, my eating habits have veered towards more fish and chicken. I don't demand dishes that resonate with me when I eat outside of my house, for example, with friends or in a restaurant. I simply quietly choose what works for me from what is available and on offer. The only food where I draw the line is with potatoes, after a very painful bout of solanine poisoning. But again, I listened to my body and chose to stay away from not only potatoes, but also other forms of starch and carbohydrates. I've subsequently discovered that I have a genetic resistance to carbohydrates, and I made some drastic changes to my daily diet with remarkable consequences for the better. In short, for me, following a spiritual path includes respecting other people and also animals. Yes, that makes me feel like the odd one out in my culture, but for me, there's also no going back.